Hey everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Brandon Henry, Enterprise Customer Success Manager here at Cloud Academy. Today we're going to go over how to use Cloud Academy. This is going to be from the administrator perspective. Here is our agenda for today. First, we'll talk about user management, assigning your users a role in the platform, inviting them to the platform. And then we're going to group those users together as teams based on their skill objectives. Once we grouped our users together, we'll be able to assign out assessments, getting a baseline understanding of where our team's skill level is currently at. Once we have that baseline understanding and we have their assessment results back, we'll be able to assign an appropriate training plan, whether that's going to be a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level training plan. Once the training plans are assigned and our users are on the platform, they're going to be completing a ton of learning activities. We're going to want to collect all of that intelligence for you. So we're going to bring that together in analytics reports. And we have a really cool tool to find out who your true practitioners are under skill profiles. We'll briefly cover settings and integrations. We support SSO, as well as if you have your own LMS, you could generate some API keys in the settings bar. Q&A is at the bottom, but if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them now. I will, or while I'm doing the demonstration, we'll be able to answer your questions as we're moving along here. And at the very least, we'll be able to answer your questions at the end. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first is user management. As the admin, you're going to want to be able to invite your members to the platform, change their roles, which will change their permissions. And so there's a few simple things we need to do. Be able to invite our members, create teams, and then assign that user a role. So here I actually have a demo platform open on the main screen of the management console under the organization tab. So in order to invite your members to the platform, I'm just going to click on members here, invite a user. You can start just by typing in their email address. Click on invite, enter in their first name, last name, and then decide if you want to give that user content access or not. So this is where the roles come into place. So you could have an unlimited number of users added to the platform if you would like to invite them without content access. But if you use content access, that will actually consume one of your content access licenses. So we'll go ahead, we could add that user to the platform. And if we would like to view our member list, we'll just click on advanced search. So here we have the teams that are created in the platform, which we'll get into shortly. And then below you have your list of members. You can see if they have content access or not and which team they belong to. If you'd like to change your user's role, you can elevate them into an admin, where the admin will be able to invite members, assign training plans, view the analytics, skill profiles for everybody in the organization. If you invite a user without content access and you add them to a team, that user would be considered an operator or a team manager, where they'll be able to view the analytics, skill profiles for everyone in their team only. All right, so now let's talk about that team management component. So you're going to want to group your users together with similar backgrounds, where it's more important that they have similar skill objectives, because this team's going to be onboarded together, they're going to complete the training plans together, and they're going to appear in reports and analytics together. A single user can be on multiple teams as a member or as a team manager, and the teams, they're designed to reflect your organizational structure, as well as serve as a way to centralize and control the training plans assigned out. As the administrator, you'll be able to create a new team. You could also create sub-teams, assign that initial assessment during the creation of that team, add members to that team, assign a team manager, and you could also set up sequential training plans. So first, we're back to the organization screen. You can see we have our main organization here and then a number of sub-teams. These sub-teams are designed to reflect your organization as well as some initiatives. So, if you have a group that you want to get certified within for AWS, Azure, or GCP, you can create a group for those users and then assign out a training plan to everyone in that team. Or if you want to group your teams together based on their backgrounds, like your analytics team, your developers, your architects, you could do that as well. So first we're going to create a team and then I'll show you what that team view looks like. So first you want to give your team a name. So we'll do test team 1. You're going to choose the hierarchy. So you could have it as a main team or you could add it to a sub team here. We're just going to go with the main team for now. And now we're going to select that onboarding assessment. So we'll get a little bit more into assessments next, but this is where you're going to choose, get a baseline understanding of where your team's skill level is currently at. My recommendation is always go with the basic cloud knowledge evaluation. This way you get to understand your team's dictionary terms of the understanding of the cloud. And if you're working with AWS or Azure or GCP, maybe all three, so you want to do the cross-platform evaluation, but you're going to go ahead and choose one of these as a preliminary evaluation. Below, we have some labs that you'll be able to assign as an initial assessment. Keep in mind, there's no course content being delivered before this lab challenge. So I would save this for some of your most advanced members that spent some time in these platforms already. So we'll go ahead, we'll assign, we'll choose an assessment name. Confirm. And now, since this is the initial configuration of the team, we'll be able to add our members. So if you already invited your members to the platform, you start typing in their email address, the rest of the information will auto-populate. But if it's going to be a brand new member, you could actually go ahead and invite that new member from this screen as well. So now that we went through how to create that team, let's just take a look at one of these teams, just what the team view to see what that looks like. So we'll go with the Acme Partners team. We could see if there's a training plan assigned here. As you can see, we could sequence these training plans. So if you're thinking about your projects, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months out for this team, you'll be able to schedule training plans accordingly. You can assign team managers. So remember, as a team manager, this person could view the analytics, skill profiles, assign training plans to everyone in their team only. You could actually remove the content access and free that license up for another user if you'd like. And then the members that are a part of this team. You could view that team's skill growth. And we'll talk a little bit more about skill growth rate when we get into skill profiles. Where they are in the onboarding cycle. So really there's just 3 steps in onboarding, and that is to create your team and add your users, select an assessment, and then add a training plan. Once you do all 3 of those, the team is completely onboarded, and any training plans that we had assigned to this team before in the past. All right, so now that we talked about team management, let's talk about that initial assessment a little bit more. So as you saw, the assessments are set as validated labs or multiple choice quizzes, selected in accordance with the team's training objectives. So this is really just to obtain a baseline understanding of your team's current skill level. We're going to assess all your team skills by platform and by service. Once your team completes this initial assessment, a skill profile will be created for that user. So take a look at these initial assessments. Under the training tab, we're going to go ahead and click on assessments. So you'll see all the assessments that are currently assigned to that team. The assessment name, the progress percentage is the percentage of users that have completed this assessment, and then their average exam scores. So we'll go into creating a new assessment cycle, and then we'll take a look at one of these that are already in place. So like I said before, we're going to go with that basic cloud knowledge evaluation. If whichever platform you're currently working on or assessing for, you're going to want to go with that preliminary evaluation as well. We'll go ahead and we'll assign to our team. And then we could just go ahead and select the test team. If we want the team managers to take this assessment, we could go ahead and select that there. Just going back now, let's take a look at one of these assessments that are currently in place. So we'll go with cloud computing for business professionals. So a lot of the same information is at the top, the progress percentage, average scores the team is assigned to, but now you could view your skill gaps. So if you hover above your skill map, you'll get a skill profile score for each platform and domain. You could click this drop down, be able to view the skill gaps. We also test for concepts like high availability and cost optimization. If you want an itemized view of your assignees and their scores, you'll get a list of your users that were assigned this assessment. This star simply just means this is your team manager. You have your progress percentage, your assessment scores for each member, and if you want to go ahead and view that user's skill profile, you'll be able to view their skill profile here. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about skill profiles and what these scores mean when we get to our skill profile section. All right, great. So now that your team has been assigned an initial assessment, they got their assessment, you got the assessment results back. Now you'll know exactly where to start with the training plan. So this training plan allows for centralized control of the training plan experience for your enterprise teams. So you as the admin, your team managers can do this as well. They'll be able to assign training plans to a team or a single member. You could create custom training plans based on one of the learning paths in our training library. You'll also be able to select a weekly commitment, dedicating a certain number of hours each week. In my experience, the accounts that have the most success are the ones that actually set some type of weekly commitment, whether that's 30 minutes or an hour each week. And essentially, the training plan is really important because our research has found that utilization has gone up as much as 400% when this training plan is assigned. Your users are going to have a much higher skill growth rate, and they'll be more likely to be able to pass their certification exams on their first try. So what is this learning plan? How do we assign it? So we'll go to training plans. These are all the ones that are currently assigned to our teams. You also have a member view too. So if you want to go to an individual member and see what training plans were assigned to that member, you could search for them there, or you could go ahead and click on that user on the list below. And then you'll be able to see all the training plans that are assigned, the progress percentage, how well they're tracking, the start and the due date. So we'll go into creating a new training plan. So we could select the team here to assign the training plan to, or we can go with that individual member. Now, this is for someone that's probably way above the curve, and you want to assign a more training plan, assign a more advanced training plan to. So we'll go to teams. We'll go ahead and select, we'll go with Acme Partners for now. And then we'll go to, so now these are more role-based training plans below, designed to upskill your users in a particular role from beginner to advanced. Now, what most of our users do is they go to create a custom training plan and they choose one of the learning paths in the training library. So what we're going to do is you could rename the training plan here. We'll go with the AWS Solutions Architect Associate. We'll add a new step and select one of the learning paths in our training library. So if you want to preview the learning path before assigning it, you can actually just click on the name of the learning path. And what we're looking at here is our AWS Solutions Architect Associate Certification Prep for AWS. Above, you have the design principles. So this is an intermediate level training plan. Average duration is about 36 hours. We have the content. So there's 37 courses, 3 lab challenges, For custom resources, we do webinars on AWS all the time. So it's always good to register for one of those. If we find it useful, we'll also include it in one of these learning paths. You have the practice exam at the end, and then 11 more labs. And usually all the learning paths follow a particular design, which is learn, do, validate. So you have your learning objectives here, the domains on the exam, and you have now the learning path steps. So they're going to learn by watching a course. Then we're going to ask them to do something by completing one of these hands-on labs, and then validate their skills with some kind of a lab challenge or that practice exam at the end that your users can take as many times as possible. They're going to get multiple, they'll get different questions every time they take it. It's designed to be very similar to the actual practice exam. And here's a quick tip. We actually give all of your users a student Sandbox account to complete one of our labs. So you have the lab steps to the left, the difficulty rating, the time limit for that lab. You can go ahead and click on Start Lab. What this is going to do is going to provide those student Sandbox credentials for your users. And this is an environment that they can go in, play around with. Nothing is tied to your company or their personal information at all. And the first step is always open up the console. You can see we have the credentials to the left here. So we'll go ahead, we'll copy that username, copy the password. The account ID will automatically populate over for you. We'll click sign in. And now we're in that student Sandbox account for your users to go around and tinker with as much as they'll like. So go ahead and end the lab. So if you decided that this was the appropriate learning path for your team, you can go ahead and select that there. If you wanted to go with more of a fundamental training plan or learning path, first, you can add that as a learning path step. We can move these around and adjust the steps as we please. Save and continue. And now this is where we're going to select our weekly commitment. So we can move this toggle to the left to decrease the time. We can move it to the right to increase the time. If you have a specific date in mind, just go ahead, click on the pencil, choose that date, and the weekly commitment will automatically adjust. So we'll review and confirm. If you also want this training plan to be assigned to your team managers, just make sure that you check that off under advanced settings. And now we'll confirm and assign. So we have our training plan here for the team scheduled for today. Will end September 30th. If we want to sequence another training plan, maybe move our users over into a specialty, maybe databases or security networking, we can add that training plan there. And these are going to be all the members that training plan is assigned to. Let's take just a deeper look at the training plan. So we'll go to one of these that are in progress. Solutions Architect Professional. So you have the progress percentage, their average scores on all the exams and quizzes. If you need to change that due date, you can click on the pencil and change the due date there. You have the itemized member use progress. So their progress percentage, average scores, their last activity, how well they're tracking. If your members fall behind on a training plan, you can go right into the platform, give them a nudge. This will send them an email asking what can we do to get you back on track. That sends directly from the platform. This will automatically be sent as well if your users fall behind on the training plan. 3 of these will go out per training plan. We could take a look at the content of the training plan, view all the skills that are being assessed, and we have some additional settings. So if you want to disable that nudge feature, you can go ahead and disable that there. If you want to clone this training plan, assign it to another team or an individual member, you can clone the training plan, edit, expire, archive, or delete the training plan below. Okay, I'm going to pause there just to see if any questions come in. And then we'll talk about the analytics and reports. Okay, so we got a question. Is there a limit to the number of users that can be added via CSV import? What does that process look like? Great question. So if you want to do the CSV import, I believe we limit you at just 100. So if we invite users, import CSV, you can actually, so yeah, so for the CSV, it's a maximum of 100. If you need to add more than 100 users at one time, just let us know. We'll just have to get product involved to help us add those users. But if you want to do that on your own, you could go ahead and add up to 100 users. Okay, I hope that helps. Please let me know if you have a follow-up question. All right, now let's talk about analytics and reports. So the analytics screen will display how much time your members, teams, or the entire organization is spending on your learning activities. So the admins, team managers, stakeholders, they can all access the analytics and reports. Admins and stakeholders will be able to view everybody in the organization, whereas team managers will be able to view the analytics and reports and skill profiles for everyone on their team only. So the analytics essentially is a time spent leaderboard. You can see how much effort your users are putting into the platform. You could look at learning activity usage. So whether that's a course, a quiz, an exam, hands-on lab. You're also able to generate this in a CSV or an Excel file, where you'll be able to join this data with other sources, also pull training plan consumption reports. So in order to get to the analytics, under the intelligence tab, we'll go ahead and click on analytics. Now we have the overall time spent on the platform. This defaults just to the last 30 days. You could do 90 days or a custom time frame if you'd like. Below you have a leaderboard in the hierarchy of total time spent. And then there's a few learning activities here that you could look at in a more itemized view. So there's a couple here that I think it would really be important and have some use cases for them. For the first one is exams. So if you're looking to get your members certified, we could look at their exam scores. So we could look at the preparation exam for AZ 104, for example. We could see how much time our users spent on this exam, how many times they started it, completed it, what their last score was, and how many times they passed it. So with confidence, you go approach our users and say, hey, Jen, looks like you passed your exam. You took your exam 3 times, you passed it all 3 times. Your last score was 100. Great job. Why don't you go sit down for that certification exam? And if your company's paying for that, you can make that recommendation with confidence, knowing that you'll get that back. Another learning activity I think is really important is those hands-on labs. So it's really, this is a great tool because it gives you centralized control of the training experience for your team. However, your team is also going to use this product as a project resource, and the best way to do that is by exploring our hands-on lab. So if any particular use case comes up in their day-to-day operations that they're not familiar with, they could search that in our training library at the top here, find the lab on that, practice that in the student sandbox environment for AWS, Azure, or GCP, and practice that there. So they're going to test this out in a student sandbox account well before this ever touches your production environment. And this is who you're going to be able to see who your real practitioners are with some actual hands-on experience. And another one is learning paths. So the learning paths are designed to upskill in one particular area. So you just want to see, where your team is mostly focused on. There are going to be some day-to-day stuff that comes out that might be out of scope, but learning paths generally should follow what the focus is of the entire organization. Reports, a lot of the same information you can find in analytics can be pulled in reports in either CSV or Excel file. If you'd like to pull individual member usage, you could choose your time frame here and then generate that in a CSV or Excel as well. All right, great. So now let's talk about skill profiles. So this is hands down one of my favorite tools with Cloud Academy. It's a tool used to understand your user's level of mastery of skills for which they demonstrated their competence. So if you remember in that initial assessment, after that was completed, a skill profile was created for that user, which gave us a baseline understanding of where their skills were currently at. Now, once your users go through more learning activities and they complete tasks, which are identified as a quiz, a lab, an exam, something that validates their skills, we're able to quantify your users' theoretical and practical understanding for the material. So when they complete a task, depending on how difficult that is and whether or not they got that correct, they'll have some points added to their skill profile. So the skill profile ranges between 0 and 1,000. 0 to 333 is beginner. Above that to 666 is intermediate, and above that to 1,000 is an advanced level user. And if we hover above the top, the top domains, we'll get a skill profile score for each platform. Competency levels will show us how the skills are distributed in the organization. And it's important that we get 100% of your group assessed in the beginning to give us the most accurate reading. So here we go with skill profiles. Again, if we hover above top platforms, we'll get a skill profile score for each platform. Competency levels will tell us how the skills are distributed. So if I'm hovering above AWS right now, you can see that 26% of our group is within that intermediate level range. This skill growth rate chart is essentially how you're going to be able to read your return on investment with a product. We were able to get a baseline understanding of where where the team skills were at when you first started with Cloud Academy, and then over time, how much has their skills grown? Ultimately, your ROI with the product. Below, you'll see your top users in the organization with the by skill profile score. Now, if you click on this arrow next to overall, this could get really granular. So we could look at AWS, for example. Now the group score is at 424. We could see below that Charlie here has the highest overall AWS score. But what if we have a very specific project on, let's say, security, for example? Okay, the group score is at 496, well within that intermediate level range. We see all the security services within AWS here. Below, we see that it's Victor that actually has the highest skill profile score. He was able to demonstrate his capabilities in the platform. So we're able to trust Victor to head up this project, maybe have some new hires even shadow him. So I'm really fond of this tool just because it empowers you as the administrator, as a manager, to be able to pick the right people for the right projects when they come up. But as well, it's unique in the way where it actually calculates your return on investment every step of the way. So I'm going to pause here again just to see if any questions come in. Okay, so we have a question. Does this have a manager roll-up reporting? As in, can a manager log in to view who has yet to complete certifications, or is this only for the admin to see? Great question. Actually, the team manager will be able to view this type of reporting for their team only. So the answer is yes. However, the admin will be able to view this for everybody that's in the platform. A good way to view this as well is if we go back to the analytics screen, we could click on learning paths. We could see which certification preps the users are spending the most time on. We could even view who completed this. So you can see five users completed it. And then below, you'll be able to see those users that completed that, this learning path. This is also going to be available to you in reports. If you wanted to view that the member usage summary, you could do that as well, where you'll be able to pull up specific learning paths and training plan consumption reports. You also could see the training plan. So if you assign one of these learning paths that's a certification prep to your team, and that's all you assign, like I did with the AWS Solutions Architect Associate, this progress percentage will give you a good indicator as to who's completed that certification prep and who's ready to sit down for that exam. Okay, so request to view, just to view the team screen a little bit more. So yes, if we click on the team, we'll be able to view all the users that are a part of that team below. These are your team managers. If you click on advanced search, you get your entire member list. Let's just go back to organization. If we click on advanced search, we get our member list. You'll also be able to see which team that member belongs to here as well. If you need to add that member to a different team, you could add that member to multiple teams if you like. But if you want to do that here, you can add that member to a team here. Choose which team they belong to, and then the role you want to give them. Member, meaning they have content access, be able to complete all the content that's assigned to them, as well as have access to the entire training library. The manager will be able to view those analytics and for that team, assign training plans. The team stakeholder will just be able to view analytics and skill profiles, but won't have the ability to assign training plans. Okay, any more questions? All right, awesome. Okay, next we'll talk about settings and integration. So this is just a cool way to extend your experience with Cloud Academy. You can add a company logo. You can edit the invite message that goes out to your users. So we'll go down the settings. You can change the company name, add the company URL. If you want to change the message that goes out to your users when you're sending your invite to the platform, you could do that here. We do support SSO. If you want to know more about that, or if you need help setting that up, please reach out to support@cloudacademy.com. Let us know, or your customer success manager. I'll be more than happy to help you out. And if you're using your own learning management system, you want to integrate us in, you can generate your API keys here and manage your subscription and licenses under these tabs. I'll also include a bonus feature called Content Engine. It's actually included in everyone's enterprise subscription at no additional cost, but you'll be able to customize the learning paths, create your own learning path. You could upload custom resources, whether those are going to be MP4s, documents within the company. We could create labs that mirror your own tech stack. So if you want your team to play around in a similar environment to your own, or we could edit our learning paths. We could modify the steps. We could add 2 steps in one. We can add 2 learning paths together. Add a lab that maybe is not in the learning path we assigned to the team. I'll just quickly go over that. So we'll clone one. We'll select an existing learning path. We'll go ahead and go with our AWS Solutions Architect Associate. All the information that we have for it will populate in the title, description, and the landing page, but you could edit all that if you'd like. Then we'll go click next. And here's the content selection. So if there's some steps here you want to get rid of, maybe your team is all caught up on storage and doesn't need any of the storage services for AWS, but maybe you wanted to add some more Lambda in there, you could go ahead and select some Handson Labs for Lambda, complete your selection, add those to this learning path, save, and once this is published, you'll be able to assign it to the team. It'll show up in the training library. It would also show up in the dropdown to assign the training plans to the team. Okay, I'm going to pause here and see if any more questions come in. Okay, thank you all very much for joining. I really appreciate all your questions and your time. Please take a little bit more time, just maybe a minute or two to finish the end of webinar survey. If you have any specific questions about your organization and how that would fit the platform that we have here, feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me directly, brandon.henry@cloudacademy.com. I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions or point you in the right direction to somebody that can. Yeah, thank you so much. Everyone have a great day and a great rest of your week.